Welcome to Slash Forward. This week, we're going to add our first vampire movies to this series, starting with 1992's Bram Stoker's Dracula. If you're someone who's constantly horny for the taste of blood, consider subscribing to the channel. Let's get to it. We open in 1462 during the fall of Constantinople, signified by this architectural breast. As the invading forces entered Europe, the task of repulsion fell squarely on the shoulders of the Romanian knight Dracula, the only one skilled enough to do something about it. So he suited up in his muscle armor and fought a long and dramatically lit battle. While he was busy crushing it on the battlefield, some turd sent a phony notice of his death to the castle, prompting the love of his life, Elizabeth, to take a ride on the lazy river. Naturally, he became upset by this and, with some novel witchcraft, turned on the god who had forsaken him. This led to a final vow of eternal vengeance, which was the practice of the time. Flash forward to Victorian London, where your boy Jonathan Harker was just given the old Dracula account. All he's gotta do is close the deals, make those bags, and try in whatever way he can to affect a British accent.
Yes, of course, sir.
Aw, sweetie. He bids farewell to his fiancée Mina, who looks familiar, and embarks on what proves to be a treacherous journey through a wolf's den and rings of fire. But he arrives safely and meets the Count, a congenial old chap with a major butt cut, which he tries hard not to stare at as he's a proud and sensitive old man. The Count's explosive anger subsides when he catches a glimpse of Mina's daguerreotype, recognizing now that destiny has shone upon him. And although their initial transaction seems to proceed smoothly enough, he insists on J-Dog preparing to drag this process out for the next month or so. Back in London, we see Mina journaling and planning for her wedding night.
Ugh, disgustingly awful.
That's sex, baby! And we meet her well-traveled friend Lucy. We also meet Renfield, Jonathan's predecessor, who went crazy in the presence of Dracula and now finds himself in a cozy Victorian asylum. In Transylvania, Dracula drops in on Jonathan while he's busy manscaping, takes a little lickety-lick, and upon receiving the letters he requested from Harker, rewards him with a tender lineup on his beard. Based on the Count's creepy behavior and the requested content of the letters, Jonathan recognizes himself to be a prisoner of the castle. He opts to make the most of it by exploring various rooms, some filled apparently with mist and maidens. His Victorian courtship has him so hard up, he doesn't even mind when they start chewing on him. Dracula breaks it up, claiming Harker's fate for himself, and offers his harpies a consolation baby instead. Dracula begins his journey to London on a ship filled with boxes of Transylvanian soil. While in London, Lucy chooses her suitor and dances whimsically in a spring rain, the portent of doom ushering in the front edge of the storm that follows the ship to its dock. As things boil over, Renfield riles the asylum into a frenzy over the impending arrival of the master. And pretty much as soon as he docks, he calls out to Lucy, giving her his beastly gift, but then withering at the thought of Mina seeing him in his unwaxed form. The ladies then brush this off as a dream and vow to cut back on their absinthe-fueled slumber parties. Now feeling virile and refreshed, the Count, going by the name Vlad, takes to the streets of London and begins his seduction. Mina is initially impervious to his charms, but a subtle strategy of simping has her apologizing to him before long. Meanwhile, Lucy confides in her doctor and former suitor that she's undergoing changes. He hits her with that sweet morphine and then calls in Van Helsing for a consultation. While that's going on, Vlad puts the final touches on his day date, taking in a movie, doing some wolf charming, and then delivering her home, vowing to drink her up another day. In Transylvania, Jonathan is plotting his escape, but the first task is to escape the clutches of the hags who suck him just dry enough each day to keep him weak. At about this time, Van Helsing finally arrives in London and immediately diagnoses their potential vampire problem, calling for a rushed experimental blood transfusion. Afterward, these men of science try to make sense of Lucy's inexplicable significant blood loss, ignoring the evidence so plainly laid in front of their eyes.
Something just went up there, sucked it out of her and flew away, I suppose? Yeah.
Right as all of this comes to a head, a weakened, blood-shy Johnny escapes the castle through the power of love, sets out across the lush vineyards, and eventually arrives at a nunnery where he sends for Mina so they can have a Transylvanian elopement. Mina goes to inform Lucy of her departure and meets Van Helsing, who partakes freely of her musk. She bids adieu to Lucy, who, suffocated by her nighttime garlic, reveals herself to the men and tries to take a bite out of Simple Quincy. This additional development causes Van Helsing to recognize this as the work of not a mere vampire, but of his arch-nemesis Count Dracula himself. And as Mina leaves and the Count wallows in his anguish, Van Helsing laughs at the sorrows of his enemy like a stone-cold bitch. While Mina has her dream wedding in a Romanian convent, Dracula calls on the children of the night and takes consolation in his own way. Upon our couple's return, they learn of Lucy's supposed death. But Van Helsing shows them what actually happens to those who have been tainted with this blood illness. They arrive and find the mausoleum empty, but are joined shortly by Lucy with a late-night snack. She's forced back into her tomb, and Van Helsing instructs them on the proper method for killing a vampire. With Jonathan present, they now have the advantage of knowing Vlad's address. As the gang breaks in to sanitize the earth and get to doing some guy stuff, Dracula slips into the nearby asylum and gets to doing some man stuff, cucking Jonathan for all eternity. He has some momentary doubts about damning his love to the same wretched fate, but finds that she eagerly and willfully gets to gobbling up his little red chest rivulets. The men interrupt them, and he turns into a king rat before scurrying off. Recognizing the mental link between them, Van Helsing hypnotizes Mina to discover that Dracula is heading home via ship, so they plan on cutting him off before he arrives and regains his full power, splitting up to avoid giving away their full plan via Mina's mind link. Before long, they find themselves in a race to stop the Count from reaching his castle after sunset, while Mina works a strange magic on the men to aid her lover. Despite this, they manage to stick him real good, but Mina holds them off, allowing the new couple to retire to his quarters. Here, he's restored momentarily via the power of love, and then she helps him find eternal peace. Well, that certainly was a horny-ass movie. I wanted to start here to set it as a standard bearer. On Friday, we'll take a look at a non-standard interpretation of the vampire subgenre. If you enjoyed the video, I'd love for you to become a part of the channel by subscribing. Thanks for watching.